sort of neck of the woods anyway, 14 minutes past 1. My first guest is Australian. You haven't lived in Australia for a little while, have you, Barry?
No, not for 16 years.
This is Barry Long. You're now resident in London. What do you do?
I'm a spiritual teacher.
Who says you're a spiritual teacher?
I say.
So you decided that this is what you would do?
Well, lots of people listen to me. Lots of people's lives are changed by me. And I have the power to communicate the spirit and the truth to people and change their lives.
Now, that's a very tall order, isn't it?
Yes, but the fact is the fact.
You used to be a newspaper man.
Yes.
What sort of journalist were you? What sort of paper did you work on?
I was editor of the Sunday Mirror in New South Wales, Sydney. And I came up as a copy boy, a crime reporter, through politics, news editor, chief of staff, and then editor.
You see, I wonder, when you were a newspaper man, if you'd met a gentleman from another country who says, I am a spiritual teacher, I wonder if in your former incarnation you can imagine how you would have looked at that man.
Oh, yes, I would have been most intolerant of him, I should think. But I'd ask him a couple of questions. I would say, show me.
But isn't it a little difficult to show?
No, not if you ask the right questions.
All right. Well, I've been reading your book, which has one of the least... Well, it's called The Origins of Man and the Universe. Now, the big questions you've tackled, and you've tackled the biggest, and you've put them in one tome. To say that you know all that, some might say is arrogant.
What, to write a book?
Well, no, to write a book called The Origins of Man and the Universe, because as you must admit, it's a rather large topic, isn't it?
But it's either true or it's false. And I either know it or I don't.
Right. All right. In what tradition is your teaching? In what tradition are you a spiritual teacher? Because most people that I've spoken to on this program who have profound knowledge, they can trace their roots back. Where do you trace your roots back to?
My roots go to self-knowledge, my own self.
So it's not out of the Vedic tradition, it's not out of the Christian tradition, it's out of a tradition that's inside you.
Inside man.
Yes, that's what
I am not special, you see. I am man, which is man and woman. I am that, which you are, and I'm not special. So all that knowledge that I have inside of me is inside of you, if you can be still enough.
It's subtitled The Myth That Came to Life, and it took me... Well, I suppose I started looking at your book on Friday night, and I've gone through little bits of it from Friday and through to 20 minutes ago when I stopped. It took me that long because I was trained as a scientist. I was trained to be a crusty cynic. I was trained to be an experimentalist.
Yes.
And yours, you say at the beginning of the book, don't try and think, just let the words wash over you. Now, is this because, you see, at first I thought, well, here's a guy who thinks that he hasn't got sufficient clout to stand close scrutiny.
Yes.
Then I realized this was wrong, but it is a completely different mode of thought. Can you explain to those who don't know a little bit what will have to have gone on in my mind over the weekend in order to get to grips with what you're saying at all?
Yes. And what has happened in that book is that is a book of energy. As I say, I know the truth, and I speak the truth, and I change people. That can only be done energetically. It can't be done intellectually. You can't debate God, as I understand they're going to do on a radio program shortly. You can only know whether God or life exist. And you know that in yourself by being still, not by debating it. So you can't do anything intellectually. You only think you can. Not of this nature. So it's an energetic book. Now, the only way you can absorb energy is not to try to work anything out. Is to give up working it out. Be still. But listen. Listen to life. Listen to the birds. See the sky. See everything around you. Listen to everything. But don't try and work it out. And that is energetic existence. And that is existing energetically like the universe exists. Because the universe is within you. And the stiller and more energetically you exist as stillness, the more you are able to receive.
Does one have to deny, then, one's intellectual powers?
One has to recognize that they are a great limitation on one's understanding of life and death. Unless you understand that, you see, there's no one, all the books that are written, that truly understand life or death. But they are all written by the intellect, and the intellect doesn't know anything about life or death. It knows about life forms. It can study all the life forms on Earth and relationship. It can tell you how they exist, how they were born, but always as life form. Now, life is not life form. Life is life. And unless you understand death, you can't understand life.
Couple of sentences back.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm just going back a couple of sentences.
You're very, very tolerant.
You said that in order to know about God or life, I can't remember whether you said God and life or God or life.
God and life, they're the same thing.
But you were equating one with the other.
Yes. Yes, indeed. What else could it be?
So the fact that you are alive and the fact that I am alive and the fact that you are alive, he said, pointing digit out of radio, is itself proof of the existence of the Almighty.
It is Almighty, is it not? It's all you've got. Can you show me something else outside your life? Then you'll show me something that's outside of God. And you can't do that.
So when you are defining your term God, you are defining something internal rather than external.
Oh, of course. As soon as
you say, of course, but I mean, a lot of people would not follow you along
wouldn't
that
they?
line.
Because when they go to sleep, all that's external, which would be God, would disappear, and that's impossible. Because God is always with you. Or life. Let's use the word life, because God is people think of old men with beards and things
that's
outside.
right.
We use the word life. It's a beautiful thing. It's wondrous. And we're all excited by it. And that's what keeps us going and keeps you on that microphone. There is this joy of life, the joy of God. The joy of being.
No, what keeps me here is the joy of questing. You see, that's why when I find someone like you who says, I know, looks me straight in the eye and says, I know I am right. I mean, the only person I've seen look at anyone like that with the same conviction is our own dear Prime Minister. I mean, she's convinced she's right as well. But you're doing this on a totally, totally different level. You are obviously a man who thinks that, who knows that he solved it all.
That is so. I know the secret of death. Therefore, I know the secret of life. I have no more confusion in me. And I don't believe in anything.
You don't believe in anything?
Not anything do I believe in, no.
You know it. You don't believe it. You know it.
I know, yes.
Would it be too trite to say then, if you know the secret of death, what is it?
Well, I talk every day, 7 days a week, about it, to hundreds and thousands of people through my books. I do it all the time. I keep telling people, this is what life is. Be still. Now look, and I write a book about it. So I never cease talking about it. Never. Even now.
Most people, when you interview them on the radio, they twitch. They move their hands around. They get pens out of their pocket. They scratch their pimples. You are still.
Yes, I am still.
And this is part of it, isn't it?
Yes. You can't know unless you're still.
I've never interviewed anyone quite like you before, and this is a challenge. This knowing, was it something that came through, like the drip of a tap? Or was it something that just happened?
It was a sudden, extraordinary change in my life that happened at the age of 32. When I was a newspaper man, and you would know what newspaper men, it's the sort of life they live. just like I see all the activity here.
Oh, yeah, terrible
Although
people.
it's also comes out so very, very nicely and ordered. I was in that, and then I started to suddenly want to be alone. So I was driven from within to gradually to not do the things that I used to do in lunch hour and just be still and try to be still. Well, that was a long, long time ago, about 27 years ago, I think.
Yes, I try, because doing what I do is very akin to being in the newspaper world. I mean, I can't, between 1:10 anywhere and 3:30, I can't tootle off for a drink. You know, people will notice. I can't nod off. I've got to be on the ball, hopefully, as well as I can be, anyway, for the whole of the time. So I go and try and have an hour of some sort of calm, some sort of stillness. And I'm very interested in what you can do with your body via your mind, you know, the power of the mind over the body.
Yes.
So I can understand the wanting to be still. I can understand the idea of wanting to quieten down all the systems so that you can feel better. But as far as I'm concerned, it just makes me feel better. It doesn't make me know anymore. Oh, maybe it does. It just makes me know the power of me a little more. But that's still a lot of miles away from where you are.
Yes, well, you have to be with a teacher who himself is still and who knows, because he loves you. He actually loves you. If you want to be still, he loves you, because he knows that all life is about being still and finding the secret of life, which is every man and woman's right. It's not just my right to say that. As I say, I'm not special. That's the wonder of it. I'm not something mysterious. I am man. I pay the rates. I've been to work. I've done everything that you've done. But I am of the West. I am not some Eastern mysterious personage. I am just a man like you. And this you can do.
Did you have a teacher, Barry?
No. Not until I was well in, and then I had a teacher who came briefly to take me further in, energetically. It's all done energetically by the power of presence.
If I need a teacher, though, and you didn't, then you must be different.
Something must have happened. I've often looked back to see where was that energy, where did it come from, that first triggered the change in me. And I had a teacher a couple of years after it started. They always are brought to you. And then I had another one when I came to London.
When this was going on in your mind, soul, body, wherever it was going on, what's the term that you would use for the core of yourself?
The being.
When this was going on in your being, did friends find it difficult to carry on relating to you because you would look the same externally, but the internal geography would be very different?
Yes. That always happens. Of course, the change in the psyche is a change in the friends. You can't change within without changing without. But I always had this, what it exposed in me using, because life always utilizes what you've been trained to do, is what life has trained you for, to contribute your uniqueness to the world. Every single person that's listening to us now is unique in their own right, if they can only get deep enough by stillness, not by thinking, not by seriousness in that sense, but by one-pointedness. Just be still. You will discover what is unique in your experience that you can contribute to your fellow man.
I don't have any trouble at all accepting the uniqueness of every human being, because I think actually that's self-evident. And yes. Following from that self-evidence is the worth of every human being. But I get so much pleasure from looking at a problem and teasing at it and wheedling my way through it and giving myself pains in my head by trying to understand. And I find it very difficult to accept what you say, that I have to stop trying and just kind of lie back and accept it.
Lie back and look.
But if I look, I think.
No, you're not. You're looking. If you opened a room and I said, now I'm going to show you a room, a dark room and gloomy room, or a dark room, and we're going to have a look. what's in there. If you thought, you'd never see what was in there, would you? You'd be in some other room. But if you looked with the clarity and beauty of your perception and just say, what do I see? What do I see? So when you look inside yourself with that sort of clarity, you start to see extraordinary things, just like with the outer perception. You start to see things when the eyes become accustomed to the light in a dark room.
And you say that if you look in, just like a geologist looking at the fossil record in strata, you will find inside ourselves, all of us can find inside ourselves, clues as to what we were from that which we have evolved.
Yes, indeed, indeed. But then it's, as I was saying, this uniqueness. Now, I have to say this, from my point of view of uniqueness, because I say we're all unique, I have the facility of being able to put the truth into words. Not everyone has that facility as you write a book like I've written there, or like I teach. I'm saying we're always prepared to give our uniqueness to life. We're prepared by what we've done. For instance, in your case, you've been prepared to conduct yourself as you are now. Now, when you find the uniqueness of yourself, which will be a help to your fellow man, and I'm not saying you're not doing it, but when you do it consciously, that you will have been prepared by life, just as you were. Your life as it has been a preparation to present your uniqueness to your fellow man so that you help him towards the understanding of life and death, not the understanding of geology, because that will only take him away from an understanding of life and death, which is in himself. That is a distraction.
But will I find clues not only to the origins of me, but to the origins of us, the species?
Indeed, because it's all inside you, yes. That's my particular uniqueness. But you will have intimations. You will read that book more and more, and you obviously have read it very quickly, and you have absorbed it. And that energy is just right for you, because you have absorbed it. You understand a lot that's in there.
Yes, but it's difficult to explain. When I was reading it, I had to unlearn various thought patterns which are very deeply embedded in me in order to understand at all what the hell you were on about.
Wonderful. So you gave up the intellectual patterns, which are your only problem. That's all the problem is. If you can give up your intellectual patterns, all your opinions, you don't need them. We only need our opinions for a good argument. And only fools argue. It's either the fact or the truth or the non-truth.
But I enjoy arguing as well,
I understand.
Barry.
That's the problem. We all enjoy these distractions. And so we get unstill. So we lose the truth and we lose the love of life. Because while we're arguing, you can't love life. Life is gone. You're loving something else. You're loving the stimulus. The excitement.
Yes.
But that's not life.
But don't most of us spend all our time careering around after one joy-giving stimulus after another?
Indeed.
I mean, there's nothing more fun than a good stimulation.
Indeed, indeed.
So you've given all that up?
No. I say, put it in its right perspective.
I mean, I'm terribly sorry for you if you have. I mean, you should really be miserable, but you don't look it.
No. Get it in its right perspective. Teach the children, look, living is wonderful, but living is not life. Living is relationship, but life has no relationship. It's just the isness within you. It's the joy that you feel.
The isness. Life is. Is that what you mean to say?
Yes. Life is, and it's in you now, and you are vibrant. You love looking, you love seeing, you love smelling, you love hearing, but that's enough. Now, when you go outside of that and start loving what you're smelling, loving what you're seeing, you've got to be very, very careful, because you're projecting your love outside yourself, and one day it's either going to die or it's going to be smashed, because all things die or are destroyed. And then you'll say, my God, my love is dead. Your love is never dead. Your love is always within you.
How do we differ? There are lots of other members of the animal kingdom who can look, smell, run about, find joy in the external things. How do we differ from them then?
They don't try to work it out.
Yes, but you said that's the benefit. That's a good thing if you don't try to work it out.
Yes, they don't try to. That's why they enjoy it so much, and they're so real and so beautiful, so glorious, aren't they? And they don't argue. They have a good fight over something that's worthwhile to survive or get a food or get a mate. But as soon as the fight's over, they don't think, they don't loathe, they don't resent. Do they? They don't go to war.
No, but they can't listen to Miles Davis or Beethoven and enjoy that moment of transcendent, I don't know, as if your soul glows when you've been put in mystical communion with another human being who's felt something at a different time in a different place and has managed to do something which communicates itself wherever you are. I mean, I can find that with music. And the sheep that live in the field opposite my house don't get that pleasure. I mean, all they get is standing up and chewing.
Well, that's what you say, you see. But you see, Mozart only had to write his masterpieces because man and woman had lost touch with the music in themselves. When you find the music in yourself, you don't need Mozart. That's not to say Mozart is not beautiful and wonderful, but let's get it right. Let's get the perspective right. When man lost the music in himself, he started to look for other places to find it in the projected senses. And so he then had to try to produce it. But it'll never make up for the music, the song of life that is inside of you now, if you will only be still. But there's a place for it. The ears have to hear beauty.
What about the immense pleasure that all of us, the lucky ones, can have from interrelationship with another human being? When you can look another human being in the eye, be it your wife, your children, or whoever, and know that there's a sort of resonance, that you know that they understand what you are thinking, or you understand what they're thinking, and there's a closeness. Where does that fit in? Because are you going to say, well, that's just another stimulation?
No, that is the being together. That is what you and I have now while we're talking to each other. We are in being. We are in that situation because we're talking about love and life. And when you talk about love and life, you experience love and life. When you talk about excitement, you experience excitement. But unfortunately, every time you get excited, you're going to have to get unexcited, which means have some pain, some worry. Because you can't have one side of excitement without the negative of it.
Oh, yes, now there's something else. I'm pointing at you, but it's rude to point, I know. But I went to a place last week that exists in Oxford where children who are very, very ill, terminally ill, can go, where they're surrounded by love and they're cared for. I went up there last week, and whenever I go, I always anew have to confront the why pain, why suffering, why children have to die thing. I can never resolve that. In your book, you say that pain exists to bring forth compassion in the observer, and that the compassion actually cures the pain. Am I understanding what you've written?
No, well, you're understanding it, but the compassion actually cures the pain inside the person who is compassionate. And on the finer level, and the total psychological level, if you know compassion, you start to cure pain in the human psyche, because we are not individuals as such. I mean, how could it be that children die if we were individual? Wouldn't that be a dreadful thing? But we're not individual in the sense that separate humanity is a great and wonderful whole. And children have to die to create the pain in those who love them. Because only pain brings man and woman to their senses. Because only when the child dies does the man and woman say, "My God, what's it about?" And in that brief moment, they might understand it's not about excitement, is it? It's not about a good time.
But that seems appallingly cruel.
But is it true?
Well, I honestly don't know.
Would you say it's not true that children die?
Oh, it's true that children die.
Is it true that parents weep?
It is true that parents weep, yes.
Why do parents weep since Julius Caesar, since Boadicea? Why have parents wept? Why haven't they learnt the truth of what death is about? Because once you learn the truth of death, you do not weep anymore, but you have compassion. You understand the suffering, but you do something about it. You just don't buy your child a birthday present alone. You don't just look after it and feed it and give it a good education. You say, I love you sufficiently to love you every moment of the day. Now be still. Let me tell you the secret of life and love. Let me take you for a walk and show you the trees and the leaves and show you life. And now let me show you my love, which will never let you get away with anything that is not straight and true. In the sense that if you answer me, you speak to me. You don't rush away. When I speak to you, speak to me, because we're two human beings. You don't treat children like children.
Is it vitally important to an understanding of this, to get this idea that which has come to me from several people that have sat in that chair, the idea that we are one organism or part of one organism, that the links between every human being are much more than we think they are, that we are all part of?
Indeed.
So this would be one of the things that one has to come to terms with before one can fully understand the philosophy of Barry Long.
No, one does understand it as one goes still.
I knew I was making a mistake. Yes, I knew as I said it I was making a mistake.
That you become aware of that contact of association as you go still. When you come to me, I talk about love and life, nothing else, all day and all night, like we're talking now. But I talk sense, don't I? I talk what you and I know to be true. Not nonsense. I don't ask you to believe in anything. I just ask you to be present with me and let us speak about what is true. You know the truth just like I know it. Everyone listening to this radio program knows the truth inside them, but they have patterns of what they believe, what they should believe, what they shouldn't believe, what Einstein said, what someone else said. Who cares what any of them said? Is it true? Do you know what love is? Do you know what life is? Do you know what it is to wake up in the night, in the middle of the night, and be unable to stop that furious mind from worry? Or that mind that's worrying in the middle of the night is the same mind that was excited 2 days before. Because when you excite at one end, you see, it won't stop when you don't want it to. It keeps going.
And we're hooked on excitement.
Yeah.
If Einstein hadn't thought, well, no, that's a bad example. Let's have, if Mr. Mercedes or Mr. Benz hadn't thought, I can't remember which one it was, but one of them reckoned they invented the motor car.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how you got here today, but it was probably in a motor car, or whoever invented the train or whatever. If people hadn't thought, then these things wouldn't happen. If Mr. Marconi hadn't done his groundwork, we couldn't use this. So there has to be a place for the intellect. There has to be a place for the inquiring mind.
Well, you see, let's start at the beginning. You're going to causes, you see, so we have to go to a cause. If you had not, man and woman, lost contact with your own godhood within yourself, then you wouldn't need all the things that you've just mentioned. Now, please don't ask me to describe what life would be like then. I can't do that at this time. But do you see that everything, all the motor car is a correction to something else? We had to get places faster. The intellect is a producer of transitory solutions. Having created a problem such as we have to get from A to B faster now we've got to invent something that will allow us to do that. So having invented a lack of any stillness in the world, we now have to invent more and more videotapes, tape recorders, anything to stop us from being still. Now the next thing is they're going to put a band around our children's head before long. And they're going to put a vibration through it to cut out even actually having to listen to music. So that you can get the stimulation first, you see. That's all we want. And you know where that's going. Because we can't go anywhere else. Because the intellect is taking us towards wiping ourselves out. You see, because if it invents a cure for this, It has to then invent a cure for the cure, because the cure had side effects, and we lead to eventually to the bomb, which is poised up there, just waiting.
Inherent in what you are saying, though, there has to be a golden age then, that when everything was all right, before something, somebody, somehow, a spanner was put in the works.
Yes, 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 indeed. A golden age, which is the golden, silence is golden. A golden age where one was still and in touch with oneself, within. I'm not the first to have said the kingdom of heaven is within, but I don't use the religious terms because we don't have to. You and I are man and woman. We understand what joy is. We don't have to have people tell us what joy is. We know it, and it comes from being still.
Some people might say, Barry Long, all right, but this that you keep on saying, this being still, is a very simple answer to a vastly complex problem.
No, I am not complex. The world that you make outside with your opinions is complex. Terribly, terribly complex. All the problems in the world are outside of you. There's no problem inside of you if you'll only be still. You see, you've made a complex. You've knitted the skein. But what about the knitter? The knitter is silent and still, and everything's fine within. It's called love.
But the being lives in this body which has desires, it has ambitions, it has lusts, it has hungers, it has thirsts, it has needs. Just by being still, if I said this morning, all right, I'm not going to go to work today, I am going to go and be still, and I'm going to practice. And I was trying with one of those biofeedback machines. I know you might laugh because you're so far beyond that, but it's a toy, to see if you can. And I will sit there and see how much I can push down my pulse rate and see how much I can quieten myself down. If I did that day after day, in the end, my children would want new clothes and my children would want food because I wouldn't be paid. Do you see the point I'm making? That when one lives in this world, one has to almost live by the rules that are laid down by everybody else. Don't you?
No, I just heard a completely intellectual, unreal statement. Utterly unreal. Because you used the word if. That's not real. We mustn't teach our children to think like that. That is to go outside yourself. The fact is, what did you do? You came to work. That's the end of that statement.
Took the kids to school and came to work. Yeah.
Right, that's the end of that. Now, what would we do if everyone were like you? So many people have said to me. Would we give up work? That's not what you would do. Have you tried it? Just do what you do, but be conscious. Do what you do, man and woman, but be conscious of what you're being ruled by, this excitement, this activity that won't let you stop. And when we don't like it, it won't let the mind stop us worry and problems, and we say, I can't live, I need a holiday. You don't need a holiday. You need a holiday from your opinions. You need a holiday from all the pressure and weight of the past that you're carrying. Give it up now. No problem. There's no problems. I don't have any problems.
But you have responsibilities. A responsibility can be different from a problem.
I don't have any any problems. My responsibilities are only what I myself enforce upon myself or accept.
Can't other people be responsibilities? And can't the fact that one has responsibilities to them because you love them, can't that...
No, you can't love and have responsibility, you see. Love is not a responsibility. Love flows from you. You can't help but do it because you want the greater good, whatever that might be for the other. So it's not a responsibility. When people speak of my responsibilities, it means the things that I don't really love.
So you do it, but when you do it out of love, you do it without thinking it is in any negative way at all. You just get on with it and do it and enjoy it.
Yeah, because you're in love, and the state of love is to be without problems. so you don't make a problem of your life or your love. I don't make a problem of my life or my love. And I'm not special. We can all do that.
Are you a revolutionary?
What would you say?
I'd say yes. You smile. Because let me put it another way. You've been in London preaching, no, that's not the right word, talking.
Yes.
All right then, talking. Persuading?
No, I don't persuade.
You just talk, right. Talking like this for how long?
Well, I've been teaching privately in London for about 7 years, 8 years, and publicly for a couple of years.
Now, what has been the effect on the people that you have touched, that have come close to you and said, yes, Barry Long, tell me, listen, what's the effect that you have on them?
They start to find themselves. They start to find a new authority which everyone is looking for. And they start to give up demanding from each other because they know that what I must find is the authority within myself. That's what they start to find.
What effect does that have on their day-to-day lives? Because I'm following through the idea of being revolutionary.
Yes, I understand.
Because this must have a revolutionary effect on their day-to-day existence.
Indeed. Indeed it does. But only in themselves, They start to find life, more life in their life. They can start to be stiller. And as I say, they do start to find this new authority where they start to take more control of their life, because everyone's out of control of their life. And because they feel as though they're being manipulated.
And is the effect of this to increase the pleasure that they're giving to the society in which they're existing? Does it have an unthought out but completely an effect that is bound to happen because people in that place at that time are thinking these things and acting this way?
Yes, it has a stilling effect on other people, and people who are looking for this sort of thing, because everyone's looking for it, tend to come to them, and so they talk together, and so it spreads.
Right.
It's healthy.
That's right. I just changed the music that I was going to play at the end. That's why my voice went off microphone, because I sit here with a pile of records, and some records just don't work after some pieces of conversation. And I use music a lot, you see, for mood changing, or for quietening, or even for excitement.
Very real.
Yes.
Very real.
Yes. Just as we come to the end, is that something that you approve of, or would you rather that we, all of us, could say, all right, let's just quieten and listen to the music that is around, in, wherever, rather than, well, because the piece of music I put on I like a lot, and it's liable to make me smile, you see.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with smiling, is there? And there's nothing wrong with music, as long as you stay conscious. Don't lose yourself in everything. That's all.
I'm interested that you say there's nothing wrong with smiling, because you are intense.
Yes.
Now, intensity is often interpreted as being joyless. Intense people sometimes don't look, they, you know what I'm...
Yes, I understand.
They sort of look a bit heavy.
Yes.
Is that how you see yourself?
No, my intensity is one-pointedness, and that's the different intensity to fanaticism. One-pointedness is a one-pointedness towards the inner, towards love, towards life, towards truth.
I don't know how you feel about ESP, but the word fanatic was there in my head. And it's very interesting that you use it. Has it been used about you?
Not by anyone direct in front of me like this, anyone intelligent, because then they would have to stand and against the truth that I speak and show that I was fanatic and misguided and that their life was good and right.
I have never, though, Barry, met a man who was so convinced. Never. Have you?
But am I speaking the truth? That's all that matters. Not whether I believe anything. It's whether it's true what I am saying. Is it true? That's all that matters. If it's true, you can change. If you face up to the fact, is it true? Not whether if I don't exist, it doesn't matter. Is what I have said true? That's all that matters. I don't matter. It's the truth that matters. Is it true?
Does it seem laughingly simple to you, what you're saying? You know, it seems so startlingly obvious that you can't see why every single person, including me in front of you, doesn't say, of course, you know, wow, yeah.
Oh, no, because I understand life and I understand how difficult it is, and I had to come through tremendous pain to understand life, to break the old patterns. No, I understand. But many people stand in front of me and say what you said and write to me and say, thank you, thank you. You've changed my life, thank you. But that's the truth they're speaking to, not Barry Long. It is the truth that matters. Is it true what I say? Does it help you? That's all that matters.
Well, you've been listening to the last 45 minutes to Barry Long, whose book I've been wrestling with over the weekend. It's published by Routledge and Kegan Paul. It's £6.95, and it's called The Origins of Man and the Universe. And it'll make you think, which probably is not what you want. But would you accept that for some people it's a start?
Indeed.
Barry, thank you.
Thank you.